How's it going, everyone? Swanee and Cookie here with another Helldivers 2 update video. Now, there's a lot of new information to go over today, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So, Cookie, why don't you update everyone on the status of the major order?
Well, Penta has now been officially liberated, and the Airburst rocket launcher is available for anybody to unlock as a stratagem for 8,000 requisition slips. There was also a dispatch that came along with it saying 90% of Penta's chemical factories have been secured. Fleet-wide distributions of Airburst rocket launchers can now commence. Most of the chemical technicians who had been trapped on the planet were rescued. Tragically, though, some had already perished by the time we reached them, having succumbed to toxic fume poisoning. The automatons show no hesitation in the use of chemical warfare against civilians. The sacrifice of these heroes will never be forgotten. And as for the major order just being over, it still isn't. It's still available, so people have started to make their way towards Chort Bay and then potentially Chuhi after that, and I don't know if they're going to give us both, but the major order is still open, so maybe they're going to be generous and let us have both. We'll just have to kind of see how that works out.
Yeah, if I had to predict, I would say that they're going to give us both, because I just don't see them taking the dev time to make these, like, both these stratagems and then just decide, we're never going to use them. We're just never going to use the mines. So I think it's just, the choice came down to which one do we want to unlock first. But I do think we'll get to access both of them. But I could be wrong. I mean, you never know.
My thought was that we would definitely get to access both of them, but I thought that the second one might come way later because there was no real stakes to it if they let us have it anyway. We'll see what happens. It would still be kind of a mighty effort to take 2 planets in a day, so we may not be able to do it anyway.
Yeah, I just don't think we have enough time.
Yeah, it looks like that might be a possibility. I mean, it is the weekend. You never know. Maybe people could do a mad rush. As of now, that seems to be the situation. And the personal order for today is to kill 8 Bile-Spewers. You're going to have to do this on a harder difficulty. I don't believe they start spawning at all till 6 or 7, so if you want to get this done, you're going to have to play on a high difficulty to get them, but then they spawn pretty frequently, so killing 8 shouldn't be too difficult, at least as far as finding them is concerned.
Yeah, although sometimes you do get unlucky and they just don't spawn at all, depending on the mission type. So, I mean, you may find them, you may not find them. So this one, it could take a couple of matches. It just depends on your luck.
I could see this being very infuriating for people because they'll play you could play like 10 matches and not find a single Bile-Spewer. So I'm not really sure. I've seen more on Omicron. I don't know how that works with spawning. That's just my best guess at this point.
So next up, I want to talk about Spitz over on Discord. They're one of the community managers over there, and they've been very active the past day and a half, and they've had a lot to say about the upcoming update. For example, they said yesterday that there are 24 different weapons and stratagems that are being tweaked, and that's pretty crazy. I don't know if that's all going to come in this next update, but the fact that they're looking to tweak 24 different weapons, I mean, that's basically a complete overhaul to the game, if that's the case.
I would think that's close to at least a third of all the weapons and stratagems in the game that could be getting shifted or tweaked in some way. But I think that's kind of accurate. I mean, or kind of accurate towards what I think is needed right now. The game is very unbalanced with weapons and stratagems, so if their goal is to have full balance throughout the game, yeah, you probably need to tweak about that many. But I agree, I don't think it's all going to come in this update.
Yeah, but I mean, even if a couple of them come in the next update, I'm going to have to do a full breakdown. I'll do some testing, and I'll definitely make a video going down all the big changes when those eventually get here. Next up, Spitz also said that I'm actually really excited for the next build. There's a lot of balance changes and fixes that have been requested for quite a while. So, you know, we obviously didn't get a patch this past week. They rolled it over into the next week's update, and normally the first of the month updates are always big ones anyway. So this one's going to be extra big because we're essentially getting 2 big updates in one.
Yeah, this is going to be a gigantic update. I mean, we've got all the balancing fixing that desperately is needed. This update's extremely important for the future of Helldivers too, because there's definitely been some waning interest, I think, in this game in the past couple of weeks. This is an extremely important update for the future of how well this game does, and I'm sure they want to get it as perfectly as possible.
And since the latest update was delayed, there's been a lot of people asking questions like, hey, is this going to get fixed? fixed? Is that going to get fixed? When's the next update? And Spitz responded saying that the spear will be fixed eventually, probably very soon, because a lot of people have been asking about that spear fix. The spear was supposed to be fixed the last update, and it never got fixed. So they're obviously probably going to roll it over into this one. And I don't use the spear. I know some people try to use it, and they say it's amazing. I just can't get it to lock on. I've tried, and that's what this fix is going to change, hopefully, is to make the lock on a little bit better. And, you know, once it locks onto things, then I'll probably start using it. It does a lot of damage, it just never locks onto things.
Yeah, it's very, very hard. If anything's like in the way, it just will not lock on at all. It's really only good against a couple of enemy types. So yeah, that would definitely be a really big deal. And there's just so many little weapons like that need help. Another thing that he talked about was that there is a build update planned for next week for the Airburst rocket launcher that just got released. It says, but fair warning, I have no idea which patch the Airburst fix is packaged into. I'm just assuming it's the same patch that's going to make it unlockable, because that would make sense. Now this comment's a little confusing because the Airburst rocket launcher itself was just made unlockable this morning. So I don't know if that's a miscommunication or if they meant that differently, but it looks like they're very aware that the Airburst launcher needs some sort of fix. Just not really sure when that's going to come. I don't know if I would expect that in this next patch or not. I guess we'll have to find out.
Well, later on in the day, they said that they can confirm we already have an internal ticket to fix the airburst exploding when it gets near basically anything that isn't air, but not 100% sure when that patch fix is scheduled for, maybe next week, referring to this coming week's patch, probably on Thursday. So they're definitely aware of the airburst blowing up in your face and killing you and your teammates. That's not intended. So a lot of people are hating on the Airburst rocket launcher. I made a video yesterday going over my first impressions, and I wasn't a big fan of it either. So hopefully in the next update they fix it and it becomes actually a lot more usable than what it is currently.
Yeah, and that was a hot topic on Discord as well, and Spitz actually responded to a lot of that because a lot of people asked them, how is this supposed to work? And one of the responses that Spitz gave was to fire it beside the enemy, not above them. If you fire it over their head, the point of detonation is directly above them and they end up in the middle of the bomblets taking no damage. If you fire it beside them, they'll end up on the edge of the bomblets and get hit by the explosions. We kind of came to that conclusion after playing with it for a while to some extent, but you know, I think that kind of just came with the name seeming a little misleading. But it's also very difficult to do that, especially with it blowing up in your face all the time. If you're not like elevated, it's kind of hard not to shoot that low to the ground without killing yourself.
Yeah, in my video yesterday I had tons of comments be like, you're using it wrong, you're using it wrong, you gotta aim above them. And like you said, it's hard to aim above them because the thing detonates just right up in your face. I was aiming above the enemies just to try to not to get it to blow up in my face, but
right.
it was having mixed results. But according to Spitz, you're supposed to aim beside the enemies, not directly above the enemies.
They also say not to aim directly at the enemies here because Spitz responds saying people need to understand how the warhead works for it to be effective. You want the point of detonation to be in the middle of the group or thing you're trying to destroy, so not into the target directly. And he goes on to say you need to fire it beside the target so it detonates midair rather than impacting and thus deploys all the sub-munitions properly. So there's a lot of different moving pieces to how to use the Airburst rocket launcher effectively. It's definitely a weapon that needs a lot of practice, I guess.
Spitz actually had even more to say about the Airburst rocket launcher. They said it's an airburst rocket with a proximity fuse. It detonates after a set distance with a range of enemies and spreads explosive bomblets around the area where it detonates. Great for taking out tight clusters of enemies at outposts or points of interest. It's not meant to have any real armor penetration value, and it's not meant to be used in close proximity, but it's exceptionally good when used to start an attack from mid to long range. Airburst rockets aren't meant to have virtually any ability to penetrate armor or take out vehicles. They aren't sabots and don't have penetrators. So this pretty much confirms what I found yesterday in my testing in yesterday's video. I tested it against a number of different automatons, and a lot of people in the comments were like, why are you using it against the automatons? It doesn't have armor penetrating. And like, you don't know until you test it. Like, I had to test it against every enemy type because, I mean, what if this is secretly a Hulk killer and it could kill Hulks in one shot? Like, you never know until you try.
Well, not to mention yesterday, the only option was to fight the automatons.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to test it against the automatons. But today I've been doing some testing against the Terminids, and it is a little bit better against the Terminids. I think the Airburst rocket launcher will be better once they have this update go out and it actually fixes the detonation blowing up in your face. But so far from what I've tested it doesn't feel as good as the cluster bomb. It feels like it's a portable cluster bomb that just doesn't do as good of a job as the cluster bomb. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
There was one last thing that Spitz commented on about the Airburst rocket launcher, saying it is literally not meant to shoot down ships. People see rocket launcher, automatically assume it's anti-tank, but the Airburst launcher is meant to function more as a horde clearing weapon, as we kind of talked about. They even go on to say it's basically a portable Eagle Strike, to your point. It's not meant to be used in the same way as an EAT or recoilless rifle, and it's not an armor-piercing warhead. That pretty much confirms it. I think, I definitely thought this was going to be about killing Shriekers and gunships. Apparently not. Although I did test against Shriekers, it does decent against them, but does nothing to gunships.
Yeah, so it's mainly just made for clearing groups of smaller enemy types. But moving on from the Airburst rocket launcher, that's not all Spitz had to say on Discord yesterday. They've been actually dropping a couple hints about some weapon changes. They said, okay, but can we all agree that the Senator needs a speed loader when it's empty? Because a lot of people have been complaining over the past couple weeks that the Senator, which is basically the revolver secondary weapon, a lot of people complain that it just has too slow of a reload time, and if you're out of ammo, you should be able to just speed reload it, all 6 bullets in one go. So maybe they're hinting at that might get changed in a future update, maybe?
I almost feel like I don't want to get too excited for all the changes they're going to have, and then that's disappointing, but the Senator getting a speed loader is definitely one of the many things that would improve weapons for sure.
Spitz also was teasing at mini nuke. They said, if we can fire mini nukes from the SEAF artillery, why can't we fire them from our own orbital cannons, with the little thinking emoji, which could be hinting at the leaks.
Yeah, this is another one I was going to say that we've seen in the leaks a lot, and it definitely looked like in the leaks, at least, it wasn't nowhere near finished, so I don't know if that one's going to come out soon, but it's hard to tell from leaks and stuff like that anyway. But this would be really, really cool. I mean, obviously, if for no other reason, it would look really, really cool, even if it's not that effective. So, yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I would love a mini nuke.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and this content. It really helps us out a lot. Comment down below any thoughts you guys have on the stuff that Spitz was talking about, or the major order and where we're at on it. And, of course, hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications if you haven't done so already, to keep in touch with us and any future videos that we have. And we will talk to you guys in the next video. So goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.